Okay, let's do this. Let's see if I can get this going. Eric Hurd, remove. Hey, welcome. For those of you who are watching live, welcome to Probate Weekly. We get together every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central time across the country, and talk about all things probate real estate. I'm Bill Gross, your host. I'm at Bill Gross Probate on social media, and Probate Weekly if you want to get involved in specifically. And just some real quick housekeeping, probateweekly.com. If you want to get reminders, if you're not watching this live, but you're watching on replay, go to probateweekly.com and it will ask for email address. You'll get reminders to come to the show. You can also sign up and get it on various audio formats or watch past episodes on YouTube. We have a Facebook group, probateweekly.com, where we have our episodes and promotions and what's going on there. And we continue the conversation. You can ask for referrals, suggest referrals for attorneys, realtors, and such across the country. Love to have you do that. Really excited today to have a returning guest, a coach for real estate investment as well as investor based in Louisville, the best I can say it. It's really one syllable, the Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky, for those in Los Angeles. Sharon Vornholt. Sharon, welcome back to Probate Weekly.
Well, thanks for having me, Bill. It's always fun.
And just real quick, I read this. I'm Sharon Vornholt. I'm not Sharon Vornholt. She is, but that's what the website says. And this is at the blog that she has, Louisville Gals Real Estate Blog.com, and that'll take you to her website and where she is located, all her details. So let's talk a little bit, Sharon, about what is coaching for real estate investors. What's that look like?
Well, I always suggest that people learn the foundation pieces first. And for me, I created a course, which is a very systematic way for them to learn. I know I'm kind of the person that likes to fast track through everything. So I understand these people that like to go straight from A to Z. So what I did was put down the steps so that they could go in order and that they could learn what I call the sometimes boring foundational pieces about probate investing. You know, learn a little bit of the terminology, learn, for instance, how to work with real estate agents. And this is, by the way, great for real estate agents, as you very well know. But that's where I suggest people start. And then, I have a program where they can, what I found is a lot of times people get to the end of any program and then they've learned everything, but they don't know how to take the next steps.
Right.
So that's what my program does, is it helps them take the next steps.
Well, and I hope that's kind of what I have here is this is an ongoing program for people in the business. And those of you watching this either live or on replay, feel free to ask questions, engage here, put your networking information in. I designed this. I'm not selling anything other than the American dream and work hard. I designed this so that we can work together and learn from each other. And also, quite frankly, Sharon, I am a real estate investor. I make money in my business and I take excess, invest in real estate. And people ask me, well, how do I do that? And I go, I don't really know. I know a deal when I find it. I know a deal when I get one and I buy it and I've done well with it. But if you really want to teach, something, you have to have the systems and the scale and the desire to want to teach people that. And that's why I'm really glad to have you here today. So let's talk about, are the people entering your program, are they more appropriately going to be brand new, looking to start investing? Maybe they're a realtor who hasn't yet found property for themselves, or are they going to be somebody who's starting their investment career? Where in the career phase are you most effective?
Originally, it was my target audience was seasoned investors, just simply because I think probate there's a little bit more to understand about the probate, in addition to how to put a deal together, how to negotiate and all of that. But over the time that I've had this program, which has been this program since 2018, what I found is I was kind of preaching to the choir, Bill, of getting agents to see themselves as specializing in probates. And I would always say, I know this guy in California who specializes in probates and he's an agent. But over time, I found that it's really a mix of just about everybody. I would hope that they've done a deal or two simply because they know how to write a contract, how to hopefully talk to sellers, how to negotiate a deal. Although we talk about those things, that's not the focus of the program. And, you talk about coaching. I started my blog back in 2010 and the podcast in 2013. People went, how did you monetize it? And I said, I didn't. My sole goal was teaching people this business. But what I found over, a dozen years or more is that people, and we're all the same way, we have trouble picking this piece, and next week there'll be a different piece. It's hard to put it all together. And that's really why I created the program, because I've been teaching this stuff for a very long time.
It's interesting. I haven't really been teaching probate long. I've started focus on probate about 5 years ago, and I've run this program most of the time. Similar to you, people say, well, how do you monetize this? And I'd say, I really am not thinking about that. I want to learn more about my craft to be better at what I do and to network with more vendors and services to help my customers. Along the way, it's grown and I get paid some money for this and that, which is nice, but I try to keep my eye on the ball, which is, in my case, be of value to my clients so I can make money, and then be opportunistic about investing in real estate. So how often do you have a discussion with real estate agents that they should be investing, they've been in the business, they make good income, but they're not buying their own product, maybe their house, maybe a second home, which really is an investment, it's more for fun. How often do you have that discussion? I come across people who say to you, gee, I've been in this business a while and I never invested, I need to get started.
All the time. In fact, when I started really focusing on teaching people probates, I had no agents in there. And now I came from a background where I had another real estate type related business. And I knew a lot of agents. I know a lot of agents, but it was like talking to somebody that just had no interest. But what I'm seeing over the past couple of years is a shift. I'm seeing a lot of agents realize maybe they were listening to us all along. Maybe they've heard that they can add this to their toolbox and they can make money, and they get to help a lot of people at the same time. That's the beauty of probates. I mean, it's great to make money. It's great for me. I mean, if I'm not on this planet to sell courses, I'm about the education. And for me, that's when I get the payoff, is when I see somebody that's successful.
So let's go to the beginning for somebody who wants to start their investing business, maybe they're a realtor, and they want to add probate to that business. Now you're in Kentucky. I'm in California. Our probate business, and I know, is very different. It varies by state, but I'd say we're more similar to more regulated states like Florida and New York. How's the probate business in, I assume, less regulated states, less litigious states, less cumbersome states?
It's just like putting together any other deal. Honestly, the states that are really, I always tell people, if you live in California, God bless you, because they have a lot of rules. But most of the people and most of the states that, people that I work with, it really is just the same as writing a contract. Now, I've always put one special sentence in there for probates, and that has to do with, as you know, sometimes these things can kind of get hung up for a while. Maybe they have to go back, that people haven't been notified properly or something. So I found myself always with a contract that needed to be extended. So I went to my attorney here, who's also a real estate investor, and he said, this is what I recommend that you put in your contract. Closing will be, so normally you would say closing will be between this time period and this time period. For an investor, I might say typically no sooner than 7 days and no longer than 15 or 20 days, whatever the time is. But he said, add this language and put in there, closing will be between, let's say, no sooner than 7 days, no longer than 30 days upon court/attorney approval. So look at the process in your state, and what that does is it leaves you with a contract that really doesn't end until you get the okay to close. And in a state like yours, I would think that's especially valuable. But for me, it's I literally write a regular contract and then send it over to my real estate attorney, and he takes care of everything else.
It's interesting that I believe, I'm pretty confident, the only state where the Association of Realtors forms have special forms for probates, California. We have a multiple page We have a multiple page listing agreement addendum. We have a multiple page purchase addendum and a multiple page advisory that goes to both buyers and sellers. So we have about, I don't know, 6, 8, 9 pages maybe. And no other state has anything. And so when I talk to attorneys in some of these other states, I say, well, do you have standard verbiage? Nobody's ever said, oh yeah, here's my addendum, or here's the form I recommend. And I think that sometimes not knowing the answer to that question before you do the deal makes the realtor feel a little less confident, meaning at least if you read the form and that's what the customer has to sign, that's what the form says, and you can read it and understand it. And what you said right now, I think is a great, phrase. And I think it would be a benefit to any agent to either, go back and get the transcript of that and write it down and put it in your forms and show that to your sellers, show that to your attorney, and ask your closing attorney, will this suffice? Do you want something better than this, something different, more complete, more complicated? But to at least have something that you can put on a piece of paper and say, this is it. And I think not having that is like in the back of your mind, you don't really know what to do. So you don't know if you can get to the end of the maze.
I think agents, I've talked to a lot of agents over the years, and I think they don't understand the probate process by and large. They just don't. And they don't realize the huge opportunity that they have. And that comes back to the same thing as it does for an investor. They lack the knowledge, the basic knowledge of how probate works. And you can Google whatever state you're in, the probate process. And in the vast majority of the states across the country, it's not really that different. And you don't need to be a special snowflake to work in this niche. You really don't. No. And it is so very profitable. And the leads are never, like we said, you have a never ending stream of leads.
Well, and I think you said also, it's not that different, but I would say, therefore, since it's not that different, just learn what is different. Like if it's only one paragraph or 2 paragraphs, match to those 2 paragraphs, then you know everything there is to know. And I think similarly, the attorneys may not know the answer, but if you know 2 paragraphs worth of good information, you know more than they do, you become a resource, and that opens the doors. I just feel like whatever it is you got to learn that. I was speaking today to a attorney and talking about how he develops business, and he said, my mentor said, just do good business and your business will grow. And as realtors, I think we focus so much on scripts for cold calling for 3 hours a day, yet we won't take an hour to read the form and know the material so we can, with confidence, present that. So I know that because you're in a smaller market than Los Angeles, that the probate process is different in that it's not as much of it, obviously. I think in most cities, it's a little more friendly than, say, Los Angeles or New York City, where the staff is a little more helpful. The court personnel is a little more friendly. One of the things I recommend to investors or agents is go visit your local county where the probate courts are heard, and at least learn the process a little bit. Have you had students go to county courthouses? Do you recommend that? And what's the feedback you get for those who go there?
Well, across the country, the more and more counties are coming online. So here in Kentucky, and I thought we were really behind the times, but our information up until 7 or 8 months ago was printed in the newspaper. It had the name and address of the deceased and the name and address of the executor. So we did not have to go to the courthouse. I've never, in fact, gone to the courthouse. Now, it was common practice in Florida, New Jersey, some areas that they went to the courthouse, which makes it really hard to be scalable. But recently, I've come across a source of leads that are really cheap, that most can get. Well, to date, I've never asked for somebody that I'm working with, can you get the leads in this city and state or county? And they've not told me no yet. Now, I'm 100% sure there's somewhere that they can. But this is a huge change, because Florida, all the areas in Florida, they were never online. I've had many people I've worked with down there, and they were all going to the courthouse. Here, we got them in the newspaper, but Chicago has been online for quite a while. Some areas have been online, but this is a radical change in the probate market, because it makes it scalable suddenly. I mean, it's not easily scalable if you have to go to the courthouse.
Sure. So going to the courthouse, some people used to have to go to get the filing data online that you can buy online. But I find there's a tremendous value to going through the steps that your customer, or if you're targeting attorneys, the attorneys have to go through by just going to court and watching what happens and learning the process. Do you have clients or students that go to the courthouse and maybe network there and or prospect there in the courthouse directly?
I have a few that have gone there to, like you said, to learn the process firsthand, to learn the process, and they would pull the leads and come back with a handful of leads. And after a few months, they would say, this is not doable for the next 10 years. But I do think, like you, there's great value in learning the process. And I think before you can ever outsource anything in your business, you first should know how to do it. Because how can you know if they're doing a good job of outsourcing if you haven't done it yourself?
Right. So what are the primary lead generation methods that you would suggest to an agent looking to add probate to the business? They're a real estate agent, maybe, or investor, and they're doing some business. They want to add more. What are the kind of daily activities or weekly activities you'd recommend for them to increase their business?
Well, you want to get the list. So the magic happens in probate, much like it does with any other type of marketing, and that's consistent marketing. Now, every month, it's the cycle of life, and people will pass away, and we get the opportunity to help them with these properties. So you want to get the list every month, this month, next month, and every month thereafter, and mail to those people consistently. Now, it's been my experience, most of them will be in and out of probate in my area in 12, 14, 15 months. Some will be sold right away. Some won't open the estate until about a year. And so it will take a little bit longer. But you start your marketing. People say, well, when do I start marketing? My thought on that is when they open the estate, they're raising their hand. They're saying, I'm ready to move forward with selling the property and the estate. That's when you begin. And in my world, you stop when the property is no longer available, which, as I said, is going to be a year, something a little bit over a year. But so every month people are coming on your list, and every couple of months you need to scrub your list and take off solds, take off the ones that aren't available, so that you've always got a pipeline of leads. And statistically, about 81% of your deals will come at or beyond your fifth mailing. So your goal is to get that machine up and running and be adding new names every month, so that you're always in the fifth month with a group of potential sellers.
Is there a particular mailing campaign you recommend, or is that part of your coaching program, or how does somebody go for getting the mailing business? I know there's a company, alltheleads.com, that promotes their method, and they have a system for that. There's third-party companies that do mailing but aren't probate related. How do you help people, or where do you recommend people go to get that kind of support?
Well, I have that in my course. I'm very much a person. I know you're a relationship person. I'm very much a nurture person. So I have a series of letters, and I have a set for agents and a set for investors. A little bit different. That's basically the same letter, but an investor would obviously be buying the property. An agent may or may not be an investor, but their goal would be to list the property in most cases. So the wording is a little bit different, but it's basically a one-page, very similar letter, but it will start off a little bit differently. After a month or two, it might say, I'm just checking in to see how the estate's coming along. But every month, the message is a little bit different. But the overreaching message is, I'll be here when you're ready. No high pressure, nothing to make them uncomfortable, just that you're aware. I believe in letting them know that you're aware of their situation. You don't have to do that. But for me, I'd rather address it up front than have somebody call me and saying, "Why? How did you know about this?" And then I have to answer that question. But I think consistent mailing, I believe very much. I've tried all types of mail pieces, and for every niche except for probate, I've had good results with oversized postcards. When it comes to probates, people get very upset if they get something other than a professional mail piece. So I recommend you do white computer-generated mail merge letters that say, Dear Bill, I'm contacting you about the property at this address. That way they know that you haven't just sent out a letter that says, "Dear Executor," or something crazy like that. Once again, it's about building a relationship with these people. And if you are sending them a direct mail piece every month, checking in on them, seeing how things are coming and how you can help them move this along. Is there anything you can do? I always offer to clean out the property if that's something they get to the stage where they just can't finish it. So find out how to be of service to these people. I always say, if you go at it from a point of service, of just helping them with their problem, the money will follow, but you're not chasing the money is not what you're chasing.
So in the mailing campaign, in the counties, well, let me go back up a little bit. What's
Okay.
the geography of the people in your coaching program? Meaning, in my case, because I'm in LA, people know me in the area. My business is very heavily influenced and my colleagues by what works and doesn't work in Los Angeles, which is totally different than even in California, than in outlying counties here, or in suburban counties here, or in rural counties here in California. Totally different than Los Angeles, but both how you would market and the results you would expect. So I guess just to understand first, where you're coming from, what's the geographic makeup of the people that you do business with that are marketing? Are they geographically centered in Kentucky? Is it more national footprint? Is it more metro, mixed? How would you define all that?
It's national. It's funny because of I've spent so many years online with the podcast and the blog. I have built a national presence, so my following is very much national. Now, I speak at a couple of conferences every year, and from that geographic area, I do get a lot of people that come in that way, and that's from a large geographic area, like a population sort of LA type of thing. But no, it is national, and by and large, the same things work in most areas with the little nuances. And that's where the people have to be realistic, that no human can know every single thing about every single city in the country. So, with Google and AI, it's very easy to get this information.
I also think that the marketing has to be authentic for you, right? I mean, I was talking to somebody at my company about this podcast, and they're talking about the demographics, and my demographics are skews towards men. I'm a man, even though I have guests for women. Skews towards older. I'm older, but so the real estate agents tend to skew a little older too. But I'm going to be me. I'm not going to act like I'm 35 years old and have a program that's going to appeal to that, because I don't enjoy doing that. So I'm not going to enjoy attracting that. But as a result, I do get experienced real estate agents, experienced attorneys, family members who are older, who are my age group. And I feel like, so I have to be authentic to what that group's going to be like. Now, if I have a wider net, maybe then I might be different. And so in marketing, what you're talking about, I think, is casting a little wider net than just yourself, but you're really looking for the audience. So I guess, how would you advise me to balance their marketing and their branding? I know on your website you have a brand assessment. How do you recommend them to brand themselves? Should they be as generic as possible to appeal to as many people, or should they try to be more specific or authentic, to be narrow, but maybe more to what they are?
Yes, they should always be themselves. And you were talking about who you attract. That's the same. As far as age, I would say, well, it's anywhere from 35 to 65 or 70 age-wise, but I tend to attract seasoned investors, our seasoned real estate agents who are looking to expand their business. Now, I do get other people, but that's who I tend to attract, because I'm very much, here's the program, let's show you how to get on with it, and so that you can build out your business. But from a branding perspective, which I talk about a lot, you have to be yourself. You cannot sustain trying to be someone else, and you will naturally attract the people that you are meant to work with. You were saying you attract a lot of men. It's funny, in the beginning, my students were almost almost exclusively male, a woman here and there. But that's because most real estate investors were primarily men. In the past few years, that tide has changed. I'm easily 50-50 on that, or maybe even a few more women. Where I wasn't getting any real estate agents or brokers, now that's changed. Every time I do a class, I've got some in there. And it makes me happy because I can see that they're beginning to see that niching down, and they can do a lot. They can do a lot of things, but you really don't want to be the jack of all trades, master of none. You want to specialize in something and have mastery in that one thing, and then branch out and do other things. That's where I think you find your success, is niching down and being your authentic self.
Well, that seems to be the case in every business. I was literally just talking to a real estate attorney, and he was very hyper focused in his business, and he said the exact same thing. And I just think it's so true that once you give up dealing with people on the peripheral, but the people who need an expert in your niche are going to come to you. And I think that's the thing that's changed for me in this business is there are times I've said to customers, look, if you don't, think I'm the expert in this field, maybe I'm not the right realtor for you, because I don't want to spend my next 90 days arguing with you about real estate and probate real estate. I want to spend the next 90 days being a service to you and helping you. And if you don't appreciate that, that's fine. I get it. I don't appeal to everybody, but I think it's important to have that niche. It just makes the whole business go smoother. Let me just do some housekeeping real quick. Just a reminder, this is Probate Weekly. You can go to probateweekly.com if you want to get reminders sent to you via email every week. And if you scroll down, we're on all the audio formats as well, past episodes on YouTube. This is being done video regularly. We do it live on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then you can continue the conversation on Facebook at Probate Weekly, which is the group. There we have about 3,800 members. If you want to look for referrals for attorneys or realtors around the country, if you have a deal. Also, if you want to put your probate-related content, feel free to put it in here, and we'll do our best to help support your business and help you. Here's somebody looking for role plays, so feel free to put your individual needs in there. Our guest today is Sharon Vornholt. She's Sharon Vornholt, not me. She is in Louisville, Kentucky, and she's a coach that really helps people build their business in real estate investing with a good probate niche or flavor to it. And she has a blog, which is Louisville Gals Real Estate Blog, and some great information there. I follow that myself, and so feel free to join in. And this is her second time on our show, and I really appreciate having her, primarily because I've talked to people who have gone through her program. I think that's the proof of this. For those of you who know me, I don't sell coaching program. I don't sell data. I do coach on probate mastery. But I look more at my role there as being a colleague for those of us who are engaged in the business of selling real estate in focus on the probate niche. And just like I think we all need colleagues helping us, support us, encourage us, share best practices. Sharon's actually a coach in this field where she has systems and procedures that you can add your business to grow your business on marketing and brand awareness and focusing on probate. So Sharon, obviously, market changes all the time. The one thing that's constant in real estate is it's changing. As everybody talks about in the news, there have been dramatic news about changes in the real estate upcoming. What are you advising your students, and how are you as a businesswoman? How are you preparing your business going forward, or is it still too early to tell, or do you not think it's going to be that dramatic?
I think in my area, it's not. I mean, the inventory is lower, like it is everywhere, which I think for me, I tell my people that I work with, make sure that you're really doing everything you can to help when you get the lead, do your best work, rather than when leads are plentiful, people tend to cherry pick. I look back on 20 years ago, Bill, and the deals that I let go because I simply didn't know how to thoroughly work them and find solutions. And I tell people you might have to think out of the box. You may have to think of different ways to help them. But again, come from a place of service to these people and go the extra mile. Mike Michalowicz wrote a book about marketing, and which is about real estate too. It's called Get Different: Marketing That Can't Be Ignored. And in there, he and I have a lot of similar concepts, of going the extra mile with these people, of finding ways to stand out, of being different. Because if you're always competing on I'm the best, you're the best, then it's a given that you should be the best, but you're always competing on price. And at the end of the day, if Bill goes and looks at a property, or if I were to look at a property, you want them to remember you for something other than the price. In other words, if you offered a little bit less, you want to be the person that they choose anyway, because of who you are, your authentic self, because of some little something that you did for them, or some way that you stood out. So branding, your brand is every interaction that you have with these people, from your mail piece to your phone call, to looking at a property, to talking to an agent. If there's a way to partner with an agent sometimes, or send them, I've sent agents properties for years that were going to be listings. Why would I not, give them that lead? Right. So I think what you put out there, whether it's with the seller or whether it's with your colleagues, I think you get it back tenfold if you're always doing the right thing.
So I've been giving people and I have a team of a national group of real estate agents doing probate across the country, about 47 agents total. And I've been giving them 2 focuses between now and, so much hasn't really shaken out yet. We don't know what new rules will look like. We still don't know if these rules are going to stick or not. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but I've told them there's 2 things I assure you, if you focus on, will pay off for you in the long run. I'd love to get your feedback on them. Number 1, more than ever, focus on listings, because all these attacks on the business are really on the buyer side of the commission, I think, and the industry as a whole. And I'm not saying it's without risks, but if you have the listing, if the sellers perceive you as the source to get the property sold, the paperwork and the commissions will work themselves out on the buyer side, but you're going to get paid. I don't see that being as attacked as much. What's your thought on that?
No, I would agree with that. I'm not an agent, but I've been around agents for 30 years, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think it's all going to work out. That's my feeling, but I agree with the listing. You're kind of in control, and you've got your hand in the pot, so to speak, if you've got the listing.
Right. The second thing I tell people that I think is more up your alley, or I should say more directly up your alley, is this is the chance to look for investment opportunities, because they're going to be deals that fall apart because the buyer's an agent and the listing agent don't get along. One agency thinks it should be one way, one another way. Those rules aren't going to be put together right. Not everybody's going to be trained properly. The paperwork's going to be incomplete. Emotions are going to be high. Whenever you talk about money, people, will fight. There'll just be a few more deals that will fall out or fall apart or not get into escrow. And if you have some extra money and can move quickly, I think there'll be deals you'll step in at that will help fill in that gap while the economy kind of works out what's going to happen going forward. So I really look at June and July and August as unique opportunities, maybe to step in on deals that otherwise are falling apart.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And that goes back to follow-up, which is another big thing. So you're actually, I have a friend that's in Minneapolis, and she is kind of a MLS addict. She's an investor, and she's also an agent, but she follows properties and she watches them. And if she doesn't get them, they're in a spreadsheet, and she's checking back on them to see if the deal has fallen apart. Did it actually close? She has gotten so many deals that way.
Yeah.
And once you understand the other piece of this too, if you're looking at this from the investor side and someone says no to your offer, think about that as meaning no, not now, not no forever. Right. Follow up with those people, because as many as 80% of your deals, and this is probably true if you're competing for trying to get a listing, the person who goes back and follows up, they have a much better chance of getting the deal or getting the listing than if somebody says, no, I don't think you're a fit for me. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not true, but follow up with these people.
Right. It's kind of like my teenage daughter. She, when we say no to her, she knew she just had to ask, 2,000 more times. Eventually we'd wear down.
There you go.
But you also bring up another point that to me is such an obvious best practice, to real estate agents. Whenever you write an offer on a property, anytime you write an offer on a property, In the MLS, at least in our MLS, you can do a search on just that property by the MLS number or by the APN or by the address. Create a search for that property. And one of my rules is when I'm in escrow, I write a search for a CMA on that property so that I get the updates. But you're so right, Sharon. I've had properties that we made an offer on, and it went, into active under contract, and then it fell out 3 weeks later, and I get the notification right away, and I'm calling the listing agent. Hey, what happened? Our offer's still good. My buyer's still ready to go, and I've gotten deals put together. Now, I'm not a buyer's agent. I don't do that a lot, but whenever I offer a property, I always put a search on the property, and when I'm in escrow, I always put the CMA on the property because you want to know when things change.
That is so smart to do that. Because as you said, things don't always close. Something happens, and that's true for properties on the the retail side of real estate. That's also true for real estate investment deals.
Right.
They may plan to list it, and then it just never closes. And then you follow up in a month or 2 months, and they said, "Look, I'm just done with this this listing." And same thing. I made you an offer. Would you like to revisit that offer? But 80% of your deals will come from follow-up.
I will say that it is disappointing when you follow deals and it does close. And most of the time it does, right? Out of 20 deals, probably 18, 19 do close. And there are listings that I follow up on and they do list with somebody else. And it's disappointing to get that email. But for every 20 disappointments, if I get one listing or one escrow, then it becomes worthwhile. So that's good. So, okay. So let's talk about the marketing side. We talked about the knowledge as far as business. We talked about the technical knowledge. Let's talk about branding and what that means and what agents need to do in terms of activities, right? I think sometimes we talked a little bit about being authentic and presenting who you are. To me, I think real estate agents often think of branding as the color and the graphics and the picture, but I think of it as what's the message I want prospects to get of me, and then all those other things have to align with that and present that image. How do you? I know I spent a lot of time, and I've iterated over the last 5 years to get to where I'm at, and people say, "Oh, can you help me do that?" And it's like, well, I don't have another 5 years to help you. I know you do some consulting in the branding area. So, what are some of the activities that you take people through to help them get that kind of lined up and go from a theory to an actual practical implementation?
Well, to speak to your point about the business cards and the fonts and the colors, they are the physical attributes that you put on maybe your business mail pieces, your business cards, and your website. And those should all be consistent. But that should be the very last piece of the thing that is rolling around in your head, because branding at its essence is how you show up. Like you said, it's who you are and the way you make people feel. It's also said that it's what they say about you when you walk out of the room. So for instance, do they say, boy, that Bill, he is so knowledgeable and he's always kind and helpful and he creates all this great content. So they know Bill as a real estate agent, but they also know that he's here week after week doing this, educating people. That's his brand. Now, I had somebody say to me, "I'm brand new. I don't have any experience. I don't have a brand." And I said, "Well, here's what you do. You go to your local REIA, the couple hundred people at mine, few hundred people there, and you say, 'Hey, I'm Sharon. I'm brand spanking new, and I'm here to learn. What can I do to help you? What can I do for you?' And then, tell me about what you do." Because at the end of the day, your brand too is not really where your brand is concerned. It's not who you know, it's who knows about you. So always be doing things to build up your presence within the real estate community. There are things you can do from volunteering. You'll get known as the person who's very helpful. Then if you can create some kind of content, I think that is the thing that people are often, they don't want to do it, but it's so easy to do with your smartphones. You can whip out a phone and make a video, put it up on Facebook a couple of times a week, and it can be a walkthrough of a property. It can be anything, but you'll get known as the person who's out there finding deals or getting listings or driving, or whatever you do. And kind of think of it as day in the life type of things, but
Yeah.
you want to build your expertise, you build your brand, and then you become the person they know as the person that does this thing.
You know, so many agents are scared to do video, and I think even if you don't know what to do to start, do something. A day in your life is a great way to start, because I know when I was in a networking program, my coach kind of forced me, if that's the right word, to do a video, commit to doing a video a day for 30 days. And I said, well, what it's about? He said, I don't care. It doesn't really matter. Just do something. He goes, after 30 days, you'll be so much better at the technical part of the video that then you can start thinking about the content. And I think he was right, because I started off just talk about interest rates. I'd walk out front where it was sunny outside and talk about California real estate and anything that came to mind. But after a while, I found my voice, and I just encourage agents, get started, find your channel, find your method of delivering content that your customers would appreciate, and do it consistently. And I think start out doing something daily. You can always back off to weekly if that's appropriate, but you can't go from never to weekly. You got to kind of work your way up and learn the technology. And I'll just share with you guys, literally, I discovered today, I interview attorneys locally as the way I generate my business. I had a great interview with a superstar attorney. Now, I've done 150, 200 interviews with attorneys in the last couple of years. On that one, I forgot to hit record.
No.
And I had it on my list of my assistant. I said, how come this one's not done yet? She said, I don't have that one. I said, how do you not have it? And there's a little technical reason as to why not. But at the end of the day, I deleted the recording, or didn't hit the record button. It doesn't exist. And there you go. It happens, And so I'm not going to give up over it. I'm not going to quit or cry. I'm going to call him up and admit it and beg him to do it again. So, so we make mistakes. That's the key to the whole thing.
We've all had that experience. I remember when I did that, and for the next year, I had a Post-it note stuck up on top of my computer that said, hit record.
It's so basic. And I'm going to call this guy, and I'm an expert in this now. I mean, really, of all realtors in the probate space in America, I'm sure I've done more video now in the last 3 years than anybody. And here I have one of the leading attorneys in LA, and I didn't hit record. It's either that or I deleted in the Zoom, I deleted I'm pretty confident I deleted I never hit record. I don't know what happened, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Okay, here's the thing, Bill. We're talking about being authentic. That's being authentic.
It is. At the end of the day, I'm not perfect. I've never told anybody I was perfect. I think if you're, I know there's a perfect God. It's not me. Those are two things I'm sure of. So, and I think also being able to admit that. And I think I've had videos like this where I forgot to put the phone on Do Not Disturb, and the phone rang in the middle, or my wife was battling cancer last 2 years. So she was home and in a robe, and she'd shuffle by the door and be horrified and say, no, we're gonna leave it in, honey. It's okay. There are people who are praying for you. So let's just leave it there. And it must have worked out because she beat cancer. She's cancer free, thank God. So I said, it's just, let's just be authentic of who we are and do the best we can, try to improve, but at the same time, we're not perfect. So, okay, got a question from Matthew Price, and I think Matthew is somewhere in the South. I want to say North Carolina. He's an auctioneer as well as a realtor. So he asks, when you get a probate property that needs to be cleaned out, when you get a probate property that doesn't have to be cleaned out,
I never.
Do you need to expand your agency agreement to more than a special agency in order to book a clean out crew? Now, Matthew's asked a question that's somewhat legal and is going to vary by state, right? And depending on what your state is and how your contracts are. In California, we do have provisions in our standard listing agreement where we can contract vendors and bill it to the account with the customer's written approval. So commonly for me is I'd say to a customer, look, I can help with that. I have vendors I work with, or I'll find the right vendor for your situation. And they'll call them back and say, hey, I have 2 quotes, 1 quote, 3 quotes. The best deal is this, or the appropriate way to handle it is this. I will say that I changed in the last couple of years, trying to be creative, in that I find that when a house is being bought by an investor to fix and flip, if they're going to take out the flooring and they're going to take out the cabinets, it's cheaper for them to do the clean out than it is for the seller. And so what I've started doing is negotiating with the buyer with such tight inventory. What would it take for your buyer to agree to take it as is with everything else that's trash left in as is? And I find that there's like no resistance to that. And I save my customer $2,000-$3,000.
That's in every one of my contracts that we make the offer. And we make the offer that they can take whatever they want and leave the rest, and that we'll clean it out. So as an investor, if you're writing an offer, what you'll do is you'll look around and you'll go, one dumpster this size and 4 men for a day or whatever. And
Right.
it's usually, I found out it's like $1,500 usually. You can clean out a house, something like that. If it's a really, but you'll know, you will do this a couple of times and you'll walk in and you'll go, it's this size dumpster and it's going to take this many men and a day. But that is probably the biggest stumbling block for an investor to get a deal under contract, is them finishing the clean out of the house. When you take that off of their plate, they're good to go.
It is amazing how I have customers, and I'll tell them 3, 4, 5 times, don't worry about any of that. Leave it. I have one now where they have, a bunch of cars in the back, and they have all kinds of blocks and pallets of stuff. And I just said, the guys, he agreed to take care of it all. I mean, they're probably gonna get a little bit of cash for the cars or the parts or whatever. They're gonna deal with it. Now, if you want to sell it, great. You want to drive it away or do whatever you want, great. And they're troubling themselves to get rid of all the trash and boxes of stuff. And of course, you want to donate things that can be donated. We don't want to be insensitive. We don't want to be insensitive to the environment and trash out what can be recycled. I'm not a big eco warrior, but I'm sensitive to the fact that we don't want to waste stuff, and we want to be respectful, and they're people in great need and we want to support them. But if it's trash, let's just let the buyer deal with it, and they're usually glad to deal with it.
We had some groups here. Center for Women and Children was one of them. If there were any usable things, because these people had nothing, they had left their whatever situation, they would come and pick up. If we had anything usable, we did the same thing. And we also, you mentioned that this man is an auctioneer. We had an auction company here at one time that would come and look. They did this for listing agents. My friend's father passed away and he kept everything. She had an auctioneer come and he took everything and out of there, and he sold it. Didn't cost her anything. He trashed out what was trash and the things, because her dad had a lot of old typewriters and whatever stuff he had. But this man, he's no longer in business here, but he would actually, in some cases, pay the seller, clean out the house and pay them a percentage of what he sold, or I'll pay you a flat fee. So if that's an opportunity you would like, then there's something there for you.
But I think you really hit on the head, which is, if I can, that is such a stressor to a seller and source of embarrassment, right? Because the daughter lives out of the house and she's embarrassed her parents left this mess and feels obligated to clean up. Now, I will caution you and say there's some emotions there, and that's not so simple just to say, oh, we'll just trash everything out, because it's the parent stuff, and you'd be a little, sometimes there's unworked through grief that they're processing through all that. But that said, if you can get that off their shoulders, I find that's the most relief as a listing agent I give somebody is, don't worry, I'll handle all of that for you. I'll make it all. You take what you want and I'll make it all the rest go away.
Yeah. And and I would never, like you said, we would never use the word trash it out. I always just say, take what you want, leave the rest, and we'll take care of it for you. That's just how simple. And I do tell them anything that we can donate, we'll donate, but don't worry about it, because I can tell you from personal experience, when my mom passed away, I always tell this example. She had this sofa that she loved. It had been a high quality sofa 20 years before or whatever, but she loved that sofa, and I could not put it in the trash. I just couldn't do it. I had to have somebody else come and take care of that stuff. We did that. We cleaned out everything in those. There were a few things left, and I was glad not to have the emotion around that, because it just broke my heart to do it.
Yeah, it can be tough, and I think there's always, you have to be sensitive. Sometimes there's emotions, and on the flip side, though, don't let hold things up. I had last week a woman who does locally auctions and estate sales, and we were talking about how so often, and I was a victim of this, where you have a piano that's dear to your family. Dad played the piano, and my wife played the piano, my sister played the piano. Yeah, the piano's not worth anything. In fact, at least in Los Angeles, it usually costs more to remove than it is worth. You can sell it for. If you get somebody to take it for free and play the piano with it, that's like a home run. So, okay. And Matthew Price says that's what he does. Yeah, and he does auctions, and then he does like the state sale part, and helps them with the whole front to back process. I think that's, again, I always tell people I'm in the business of solving other people's problems. You know, if you have a problem, talk to Uncle Bill, and if I can solve it, I get paid, and it all kind of works itself out. And not to run from problems, but look for your prospects' problems that you can solve, and then you get paid to do that. Okay, so last call here. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn Live, put comments in. Matthew Price has been chatting with us from the side. Always glad to have Matthew join us, and the rest of you as well. If you have questions, feel free to jump in as we kind of wrap up here. We're lucky to have Sharon Vornholt. Sharon is a coach in specifically training real estate investors or realtors who want to invest in real estate and how to use probate to build your business. And she kind of has a soups to nuts approach to it, the marketing and the branding, as well as the nuts and bolts of the process and how to learn the business. And you can find more about Sharon at LouisvilleGalsRealEstateBlog.com. And there you'll find her as well as her blog, and she has all kind of good content. Here's one. Do probate properties need court approval to be sold? Now, in California, about 1 in 10 need court approval because they have limited authority or there's litigation involved. What's the answer? How often do probate properties in other states, let's say Kentucky or other states you're familiar with, what percentage of those need court approval?
We don't run into that particular situation a lot, but there is court approval needed in that they have to be sure that the steps have been followed. You know, there's a very particular order, and this is not something that agents or investors need to learn. You just need to know that it exists. But there's the notification to the heirs and the executor. All those things have to be done in a precise order, and that's all laid out by the court. So once if there's in the process something that's been done out of order, I don't have a probate attorney, but my real estate attorney will say, look, they didn't do this right. And that only happens typically when the family is trying to do it and save the cost of a probate attorney. But you have to go make sure all the steps have been handled. And that's why we put that verbiage in the contract, so that the contract stays open just on the rare occasion when that does happen. And that rare occasion took 6 or 7 months, the time it happened, to get it all, straightened out.
Welcome to my world. That's where I live, in that 6 or 7 month period.
Oh no. So literally here and in most places we can write a contract. We can use a 1-page contract here if you're for that. You can use that contract, literally close it in a few weeks. Wow. No more than a month. A month is a long time.
On one hand, I fantasize about that. On the other hand, the fact it's so complicated is why I get the business I do. So it's like you got to play the cards you're dealt. You really don't, you can't sit around and worry about too much about it. Matthew asked, Sharon, have you had to coach a relatively new attorney in the probate space as to how the entire process is completed from the legal and practical side? So he's really, I think, asking, do you end up having to kind of coach along attorneys? Now, as a real estate agent, if you want to get referral business from an attorney, it's a very tough place because they may not know anything, but they think they know everything. And you have to be careful. For most attorneys, the best know what they know and don't know what they don't know and are clear. So how do you handle that? You're an investor and maybe the attorney is not done the notice properly, and that's going to hold you up on buying your property or tie up your money longer than it should. How do you approach coaching an attorney through the process?
Well, I will say this: probate attorneys in my area, I found them to be very knowledgeable about probate and to be not knowledgeable at all about real estate investing. They think, you can't wholesale. They say you can't double close. You can't do any of those things. And that is why the moment I get a contract, I send it over to my real estate attorney. And then when this is a little bit different world, but if I'm wholesaling a property, then I will say to my buyer, look, we've already done the title work over here. You need to come over here. So your answer is yes. I try to get them over there where my attorney is very knowledgeable about probate, but he also knows real estate investing. So I don't know that you can teach an attorney something that I don't know about that one.
As a son of an attorney, I can tell you they're always right. So I don't know. I think, I'm not married to a man. I am a man. I'm married to a woman. But I think it's kind of like being married to a man. And this is what wives learn, how to make their husband make a decision that they wanted them to make, thinking it's their choice, but really it's your wife's choice, right? Sometimes I'll go, how do we end up here? Oh, I chose this, but I didn't really choose this. You talk me into, I think with attorneys, sometimes you want them to figure it out. You want to help them figure out what you need them to figure out.
Well, and what I do is I call my attorney, Harry, I think we have a problem. How about you take care of it? You're an attorney. And he is the master of public relations. Well,
and of course, I think somewhat is just title. In California, we don't use real estate attorneys, we use escrow officers. In reality, escrow officers are very highly trained and skilled in a narrow part of the law related to the real estate transaction. And I believe are the good ones every bit as educated in law as real estate attorneys are in other states. But because they're not called attorneys, I think they don't get the respect from people. They get treated more like secretaries. And in reality, a good escrow officer is every bit as knowledgeable as an attorney, if not more so in, again, their narrow space that they are experts in. So
true.
Okay, and so we got the little smiley out of Mark. So I guess he likes likes your answer. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we might need to cut that one out there.
No, we can put smiley faces in. That's you guys. Anybody watches on the show live, if you want to come in and throw some emojis on the screen, we'll put them up. In fact, right now, if you're watching, put an emoji on, and I don't care what it is, unless it's a picture of me. Or Sharon, cover picture of me. I'll put it up on the screen. Okay, we're kind of at the top of the hour, so and I know it's also later. We are Sharon. Sharon, thank you so much, Sharon Vornholt of LouisvilleGalsRealEstateBlog.com and SharonVornholt.com as well, coaching people on how to be better investors, how to specifically build a probate business as an investor as well as a realtor. Second time on the show. Second time was better than the first time. I look forward to the third time being better than this. Sharon, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun, Bill.
And for the rest of you, this is Probate Weekly. We do this every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We live stream it on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, as well as record it. You can go to episodes.probateweekly.com and see the past episodes on YouTube. I'm at Bill Gross Probate on social media. Thank you for all your support. If you like this, like it, subscribe it. Comments, don't like it, let me know what we can do better. Oh, hold on. There's Matthew Price with, what is that? An alien of some sort? I don't know what that is. But he put the emoji up, so we're going to show them on. So he wins the most emojis for one show award for today. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.